Hey guys, I just got back from my ride on the Propain Hugene. It is their 29-inch trail bike and it was a lot of fun. So if you've never heard of the brand Propain before, they're out of Germany. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah in the United States of America, and they just started selling bikes here in North America. So you maybe have never seen one on the trail. I've never seen one out in the wild before, but when I got the opportunity to demo it, I snapped right at it because how often do you get to ride a brand new bike that no one's ever heard of? And it was a lot of fun. I'm going to talk about the characteristics of the bike in just a minute and just tell you a little bit more about who Propain is and kind of what they're about. So they build gravity downhill bikes. That's kind of what they're more known for over in Germany. I also rode one of their gravity bikes over the last couple days, but the Hugene was a ton of fun. And if this is your first time to my channel, my name's Jason. I do mountain bike reviews. I ride a ton of different bikes, mostly trail bikes like this one. And I ride them on the same trails to give you an idea of how they feel. So a quick rundown on the Hugene. It's a 29er, 130 millimeter rear travel with 140 millimeter Fox 36 up front. It's a pretty run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-road trail bike. It's kind of the jack of all trades. When I see a 29-inch trail bike like this with 130 millimeters of travel, you know it's going to kind of do everything pretty good. It has a 67.5 degree head tube angle and a 75 degree seat tube angle on a size medium. You know, I'm 5'8", 140 pounds. I felt right at home on this bike. It doesn't have the most current geometry that new bikes are kind of coming out with today. But with that said, it still had excellent trail manners. I could go ride this bike all day. It climbed really, really well. Maybe that's where we'll start talking about this bike today. The climbing on this bike under pedal input has almost no visible or perceived bob. So when as you're pedaling, you don't have a lot of input from the pedals on, it doesn't affect the shock that much. So it makes it a pretty dang good climber. The other thing is that the geometry of the bike puts you in a position where your weight's forward, the front tire stays planted to the ground. You can really produce a lot of power here. Now, when you get out of the saddle and start really charging, that's when I started to notice a little bit more bob out back. It wasn't terrible or undesirable in any way. I thought it was fine. It's most bikes, when you get out of the saddle and hammer on them, they bob a little bit. That's the way bikes are made. So in terms of climbing, I would say it's as good as, you know, the Rocky Mountain Instinct, or actually, you know what? It's probably a little better than the Rocky Mountain Instinct, to be quite honest with you. It's probably more like the Santa Cruz Tallboy, probably on par with the Pivot Trail 429, are some other bikes I've ridden in this category. Honestly, out on my ride for the last couple days, I would say the bike it reminds me of the very most would be somewhere between, if the Santa Cruz Tallboy and the Santa Cruz Hightower had a baby, it would be the Propain Hugene. That's probably the best way to describe it. It feels a lot like a Santa Cruz Tallboy, except for just a little bit longer travel feeling. Let's talk about that now, the descending. So as soon as the trail points down where you start picking up speed and start going over more chundery sections of the trail, the rear end of the bike is so planted, so stable, so quiet. This is a dead silent, quiet bike too, which was really awesome. It just instills a lot of confidence for a trail bike like this. I think it could definitely use more fork up front. My current bike right now that I'm riding is a Revel Rascal, very similar to this bike, 130 millimeters of travel and 150 millimeter fork. I would imagine this Hugene with a 150 millimeter fork would probably feel more capable heading down the trail with just a little bit more suspension up front. Also, the head angle is maybe a little steep for a trail bike. It wasn't unwelcome. I would be just fine with this trail bike as my only bike, but I think a little slacker head angle might give it that extra confidence that maybe you're looking for. In terms of other downhill performance characteristics that are worth noting is the traction. So much traction in the corners. This rear suspension is unbelievable how well it tracks the ground. Every turn that I went into, I felt balanced and in the right spot, and a ton of traction. The bike felt very neutral, very easy to ride. Just getting on it felt natural and easy. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about the brand. So it's a direct-to-consumer brand. You go straight to propainbikes.com. I have a link in the description down below where you can go and you can build up your own Hugene. They have 4 different builds starting at $37.99. This build that I have today is like the high-end, super nice. It's got full SRAM electronic access drivetrain, XX1, full-on Fox factory fork, DPX2 shock, and Fox Kashima coated transfer dropper post. Everything on it is super nice. When you build your bike from Propain, you can pick the decals. There's a decal along the top tube, obviously the Propain decal along the side. Grips and saddle can all be customized. So you can pick a green or an orange or a yellow, or in this case, this one has black, whatever decals you want to customize it and make it yours. I gotta tell you, after riding this bike, I look at that build, that $3,799 build that has GX Eagle drivetrain, has good RockShox suspension, has a nice dropper post on it, and I just think a full carbon bike for $37.99, it's unbelievable. They'll ship it straight to your house. You can barely buy a Yeti SB130 carbon frame for the amount that these guys are selling you a bike for. It's totally insane. So if you're a guy who's on a budget, or if you're just getting into the mountain biking for the first time, or just want to upgrade to a carbon frame with a nice GX 12-speed drivetrain, they have that bike for $37.99. It's insane. That's such a good value. I would say compared to other consumer direct bikes like YT or Commensal or other brands, I've spent some time on a couple YT bikes. The 4-bar horse-link suspension of a YT does not compare at all with the sophistication of the Pro 10 suspension platform that this bike has. This is a very sophisticated, well-built, well-thought-out and engineered suspension platform. It reminds me so much of Santa Cruz's VPP. It feels like a tall boy. Honestly, it's like buying a Santa Cruz tall boy on a budget. It's unbelievable. I'd really encourage you to click on the link in the description I have down below to Propain Bike's website and just check it out. I'm not sure if they're gonna have a demo truck going around the country at some point. I'm not sure how you'd get a chance to ride it, but if you bought this bike, I don't think you'd be disappointed at that price point. And even on this higher end build, the $7,300 build, it's so much value for the money. I can't believe how well this bike climbs and descends. It has a very sporty feel through the corners. I mean, it rides a lot like a Santa Cruz tallboy. I keep saying that. It's not that different than my Rebel Rascal. It's a neat bike. It's a really cool bike. I'm excited to spend a little bit more time on it. Again, another neat thing about it is not riding the same bike as every other person out on the trail. That's the other thing I like about all these bikes popping up. There's so many people who are trading in their golf clubs and picking up biking. And I just welcome more and more bike companies into the industry, and it brings a new experience, a little different feel. The Pro 10 suspension on this bike is unbelievable. I think if you got a chance to ride it, you'd be shocked at how good it climbs, how well it rides all sections of trail. This video was sponsored by Propain Bikes. They sent these bikes to me. I told them I'd give a completely authentic and unbiased opinion of the bike, and that's my opinion. I think, especially at that lower budget, that $37.99 build, how do you not roll the dice and take a chance on a brand like this? It's such a cool brand with a heritage of downhill racing, gravity downhill racing. Very, very cool bike. I wish that mine would have had the 150 millimeter fork on it. I think that the actual frame and the suspension style of this bike outmatched the fork in this case. And I think a little extra travel up front would be welcome. I'm gonna drop my my stem down a little bit for my next ride and get some more experience with it. The handlebars just slightly lower. I still had tons of confidence in the corners. It jumped really well. Yeah, I just thought it was a really rad experience. It comes equipped with a chain guide as well. I don't know why every bike company doesn't offer that. That should be the first thing you look for. If the bike comes with a chain guide, it's probably on the right track that they want you to get rowdy going downhill. Overall, I'm not disappointed in the package. I don't think you will be either. Let me know what you think. Have you guys heard of Propain bikes before? Is it something that you're interested in finding a direct-to-consumer bike like this? If so, I'll try to pick up more brands to demo and give you an idea of what I think. The Propain Hugene gets 2 thumbs up from me. Final thoughts, I think it's a rad bike. I think it fits a full-size water bottle in the front triangle there. For those of you who like to keep your water bottle on your bike, I like to keep mine on my hip pack. I use a Lab Austere minimalist pack. It's lightweight. It holds 2 water bottles if needed. Otherwise, you can roll up a rain jacket and stick it in here. All my tubes and food and tools are in the back here. The nice thing about it, if you want to come in here closer, is it rides below my lower back. Here's my lower back. It rides down below, hanging off of me, you know, kind of like a tool belt would. And so I don't get a sweaty back. I don't even notice it's there. It just hangs off me. It's super easy to grab a drink and then reholster, even when you're pedaling. It's great. Anyway, check out the Propain. Follow the link in the description down below. I'm gonna keep riding this bike for a little bit longer and see what it's all about. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful. Subscribe if you haven't already and like the video. Thanks for sticking around. We'll see you on the next video.